Being blacklisted by the elite is not your curse. It is Allah's proof that you carry a power they can never control. Chosen ones, listen carefully. The world is not as it seems. Behind closed doors, there are elite groups plotting, powerful councils meeting in secret, and hidden networks pulling strings over nations. They believe they are untouchable, that they control destinies, that they write the future. But here is the truth they will never tell you. You are the threat they cannot contain. They are not rejecting you because you are powerless. They are blacklisting you because you are dangerous to everything they've built. You carry a light they cannot extinguish, a strength they cannot replicate, and a spirit that bows only to Allah. They aren't recruiting you, chosen one. They are scrambling to survive you. Today, we expose the file they never wanted revealed. 7 powerful lessons on why the elite are terrified of Allah's chosen ones. Chosen ones, the reason elite groups cannot handle you is simple. You belong to Allah, not to them. Their entire system is built on control, controlling minds through propaganda, controlling hearts through desires, controlling people through fear and money. But when a soul is anchored to Allah, it becomes unshakable. They can threaten your status, strip your wealth, and even isolate you, but they can never sever your connection to the one who owns your soul. Remember, the Quran reminds us that true honor belongs to Allah, His Messenger, and the believers. You don't bend to their contracts because your covenant is already sealed in the Shahada. You don't sell yourself for their approval because your worth has already been declared by the Lord of the worlds. This terrifies them. A man who bows to them can be enslaved. A man who bows only to Allah is beyond their reach. That's why you are blacklisted, not because you are weak, but because your loyalty to Allah makes you impossible to own. You cannot be bribed, manipulated, or enslaved, because the one who sustains you is not sitting in their hidden councils. He is Allah, the King of Kings. Chosen ones, never be deceived by the glitter of their power. The elite build castles that look mighty from the outside, but inside they are hollow. Their wealth is stacked high, but it cannot buy peace. Their empires stand tall, but they are built on lies, corruption, and fear. They live by illusion, convincing the world that they are untouchable, convincing themselves that they control destiny. But your strength is not in illusion, it is in truth. Allah is Al-Haq, the everlasting reality. And when you stand with Him, no deception can overpower you. Remember the story of Musa, peace be upon him, when Pharaoh's magicians filled the court with their tricks. To the people, it looked powerful, unstoppable. But one strike of Musa's staff, carrying the truth of Allah, swallowed every illusion they created. That is you, chosen ones. You are the staff of truth in a world of falsehood. They fear you not because you carry armies, but because your presence alone dismantles their lies. Illusions collapse when light is revealed, and truth has no equal. That's why they blacklist you. Because if you speak, their empire of shadows falls apart. Chosen ones, understand this. What makes you dangerous to the elite is not your arsenal or your worldly influence. It is the Nur, divine light, that lives inside you. Armies and money can be counted, catalogued, and copied. They can be matched with more guns, more gold, more schemes. But the light of a sincere heart, the quiet glow of Tawakkul, Ikhlas, and Yaqin, is invisible to their calculators and intolerable to their systems. When you walk into a room, your presence exposes hidden bargains, secret anxieties, and carefully constructed masks. When you speak a word of truth with humility, their confident narratives wobble. This light strips away the smoke and mirrors they use to recruit and to dominate. It calls people back to fitrah, to what is real, and that awakening is their deepest fear. Even the unseen, jinn and whisperers of doubt, recoil from a soul anchored to Allah. What the elite fear most is not a headline or protest, but the slow, steady contagion of faith that spreads quietly from heart to heart. They cannot manufacture this nur. They can only imitate its surface, never its source. So they try to silence you, sideline you, or paint you as an enemy, because the light you carry threatens the very foundation of their survival. Rejoice in that light. It is your weapon that no ledger can measure, and your shield that no conspiracy can fracture. Chosen ones, you must learn to see rejection differently. When powerful circles close their doors on you, when elite groups refuse to let you in, when people of influence push you aside, it is not because you are unworthy, it is because Allah is protecting you. The tables they sit at are poisoned with arrogance, their gatherings are laced with whispers of shaitan, and their contracts are bound with greed. If you were seated with them, your soul would be exposed to corruption, your heart to compromise, your spirit to stains that are hard to wash away. So when Allah removes you from their reach, it is mercy disguised as rejection. Remember Yusuf, peace be upon him, sold into slavery, thrown into prison, rejected by people who could have accepted him. But every rejection was divine protection, leading him to a greater station. Your path is the same. Their no is Allah's yes to something higher. Their blacklist is your safeguard. So do not cry over their exclusion, and do not beg to belong where Allah has cut you off. What feels like a closed door is really Allah keeping you from drinking from a poisoned cup. The rejection of dunya is the protection of your akhirah. Chosen ones, this is a truth most people do not see. The elite who blacklist you still lean on you more than they will ever admit. They study you in secret memos. They replicate your honest courage behind closed doors. And they borrow the language of your humility when crafting public narratives. Their networks are desperate to manufacture what you were given freely: sincerity, steadfastness, a soul uncluttered by compromise, so they imitate your outward manner while trying to capture your inward source. You think their rejection leaves you powerless. The reality is the opposite. When you refuse to compromise your integrity, you become an unwitting lodestar for those who have everything but meaning. Corporations, councils, and corrupted councils may deny you entry, but they cannot deny that your example infects their followers with conviction. Young people watch you and learn to refuse shortcuts. Families notice your patience and begin to revive lost prayers. A single act of honest courage from you, a refusal to lie, a decision to forgive, a pledge to spend in secret for the sake of Allah, ripples outward into places the blacklist cannot touch. This is why they fear you. Your life is a blueprint for awakening that no amount of money or influence can replicate. More than that, chosen ones, their dependence is structural. Their systems run on borrowed narratives. Legitimacy, borrowed from your authenticity. Credibility, borrowed from your sacrifice, and moral cover, borrowed from the small acts of goodness you continue to perform despite being sidelined. They create institutions that look permanent, but those institutions will always need the quiet legitimacy that you carry in your character. When people inside those circles act, they often reach for the language you taught them, humility packaged as strategy. charity repackaged as reputation management, or faith quoted in speeches with no practice behind it. They depend on your example to make their stagecraft believable. Without you, their theater of control falters. With you, even inadvertently, their play looks plausible. Do not underestimate how your presence disarms them. Your refusal to seek their approval strips away the very currency that buys influence in their world. When you live by Tawakkul and Ikhlas, you prove to others that status can be rejected without spiritual collapse. That demonstration is contagious and terrifying to those whose power depends on unquestioned compliance. And remember, dependence is not always visible. It is hidden in the way their policies mimic your generosity, in the way their slogans echo your prayers, and in the quiet panic of those meetings where they discuss how to neutralize what they cannot purchase. They blacklist you not because you are irrelevant, but because you are the one inconvenient proof that their system is not the final authority. So take comfort, chosen ones. Being sidelined is not erasure. It is influence in a form they cannot tax or trademark. Continue to embody what they cannot create: mercy without spectacle, courage without a crowd, surrender without cynicism. Every uncompromised action you take is a deficit created in their ledgers, a missing support that makes their towers swaying. And know this: when the hour of reckoning comes, the structures that depended on your shadow will crumble, not because you sought to destroy them, but because your existence exposed their emptiness. Keep living in a way that costs you nothing in fame, but everything in sincerity. Your quiet resilience is their unacknowledged dependency and the seed of their eventual unraveling. Chosen ones, do not be fooled by the glittering towers of the elite, nor by their ability to bend nations with a single decision. These powers exist only by Allah's permission, and they will vanish in the blink of an eye when His decree arrives. The Quran tells us again and again that the end of every tyrant is humiliation, no matter how long their empire lasts. Look at Pharaoh, who declared, "I am your Lord, Most High," yet he drowned in the very sea he thought he controlled. Look at Nimrod, who challenged Ibrahim, peace be upon him, with arrogance, only to be destroyed by a tiny creature from Allah's creation. Their wealth, their secrets, their armies, all of it crumbles when the Lord of the worlds commands, "Be," and it is. The chosen ones carry this truth in their hearts, and this is why the elite blacklist you. They know that the end of time does not belong to them, but to those who stood firm in faith, those who refused compromise, those who chose Allah over the world. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us that near the final hour, the world will be filled with corruption, oppression, and deception. False leaders will rise, lies will dominate truth, and many will run after dunya as if it were eternal. But he also gave us glad tidings, that a group of sincere believers will remain, holding on to truth like burning coals, enduring hardship with patience, and refusing to bow to anyone but Allah. These are the chosen ones. And when the Mahdi appears, when Isa ibn Maryam, peace be upon him, descends, victory will not come through elite councils, not through military machines, not through secret empires. It will come through the ones the world ignored, the ones they blacklisted, the ones who carried faith when it was hardest to carry. The final hour of history belongs not to the corrupt elite, but to the purified servants of Allah. Understand this, chosen ones. Every time you are excluded, mocked, or sidelined, it is part of Allah's greater design. He is writing you into the story of the ultimate victory. You may not hold worldly power, but you are being prepared for the last chapter of this world, the chapter where truth rises and falsehood collapses forever. Their wealth will scatter like dust in the wind, their plans will dissolve, and their symbols will mean nothing. The Quran tells us clearly, falsehood is bound to vanish. What remains eternal is not their institutions, but the word of Allah and those who lived by it. So, lift your head high. You are not waiting for the elite to recognize you. You are waiting for the promise of Allah to manifest. They know it too. That is why they tremble when they hear of the chosen ones, because deep down their souls recognize that they are building palaces on sinking ground. Their reign is temporary, but your station with Allah is eternal. The final hour belongs to you, not because of your strength, but because of the one who chose you, who carried you through rejection, and who preserved your faith when the world tried to corrupt it. Stand firm, chosen ones, for every second of your patience is a stone in the foundation of the final victory that will silence the arrogance of the elite forever. Chosen ones, hold this truth like a lamp in your hands. Your very breathing is a sign against those who built their kingdoms on lies. The elite who blacklist you operate as if their rule were permanent. They cultivate false narratives, buy loyalties, and polish their images until the public believes in the myth of their invincibility. Yet every uncompromised heart that refuses their currency chips away at that myth. Your existence, patient, sincere, and steadfast, is a living contradiction to their story. It testifies that power without righteousness is fragile, and that glitter without meaning is empty. Look to the lives of the prophets, peace be upon them. Yusuf, peace be upon him, was cast out, betrayed, and imprisoned. But his survival, his integrity, and his trust in Allah became evidence that the schemes of the powerful could not extinguish divine destiny. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, stood against a people convinced of their own supremacy. His very insistence on Tawhid was enough to unsettle a nation. Musa, peace be upon him, faced a ruler who styled himself as God. Yet a single truth, a staff raised by Allah's command, rendered that empire impotent. The pattern is the same for you. Your patience and your refusal to be bought are the living proof that their dominion is temporary. Your mere presence is a prophecy in action. Do not mistake smallness for insignificance. The chosen ones are often ignored, mocked, or reduced to quiet lives by men who think influence is measured only in titles and bank accounts. But influence seeded in sincerity spreads in ways their ledgers cannot track. When you pray in private, when you give in secret, when you forgive without announcing it, you are building a spiritual economy they cannot tax. When a neighbor sees your steady character and chooses to remove a doubtful habit. When a child learns humility from your example, those are defeats for the elite's agenda. Subtle, cumulative, and irreversible. Their real currency is conformity. Your refusal to conform is their erosion. They blacklist you because your existence exposes their dependence on illusions. They need a populace that believes in their manufactured certainties. They need social proof that their way is the only way. But you, by living differently, fracture that illusion. You show people another map, a map where dignity comes from submission to Allah, not from submission to the powerful. And once people see that map, their confidence in the elite's directions collapses. That is the slow, agonizing defeat the elite fear. Not a single catastrophic event, but the quiet, steady unraveling of consent. Understand, too, that your trials are not random. the tests that isolate you, the slights that push you to the margins, the mockery that tries to make you small. These are not punishments, but refinements. Allah polishes what He intends to raise. When you survive the pressure of being unseen, when you resist the urge to bargain your convictions for comfort, you become a magnet for truth in the hour of awakening. The Quran repeatedly reminds us that falsehood is transient and that the truth will endure. Your life is part of that enduring truth. Each act of patience and each refusal to sell out is a tally in Allah's ledger that will be shown on the day when the real scales are set. There is also an important communal dimension. The chosen ones do not exist in isolation. Their example births companions, followers, and successors who will not bend in times of trial. The elite seek to eliminate tribal memory of sincerity by absorbing or silencing its carriers. But every time you keep your salah, teach a child, or rescue a neighbor from hardship without a headline, you create a lineage of faith. That lineage becomes the social immune system against the illness of tyrannical influence. By surviving their attempts to neutralize you, you ensure that when the moment of truth arrives, there will be people who recall integrity and stand upon it. And when they stand, the house of lies trembles. Do not be discouraged by their temporary victories. History, both prophetic history and the history of nations, shows that corrupt structures can dominate for long seasons, yet their end is inevitable when the people stop believing in them. Your quiet acts of worship, your humility in success and patience in persecution, your refusal to use forbidden means, these are the seeds of the public's awakening. The elite can delay, intimidate, and defame, but they cannot manufacture conviction in the hearts they do not own. Your existence is the sign that conviction is still alive. So stand firm, chosen ones. Keep living in the way that exposes the hollowness of their pride. Live with humility, speak with truth, act with mercy, and remain steadfast in worship. Know that being blacklisted is not an erasure from history. It is an inscription in the register of the hereafter. Your life, small and steadfast, will be read aloud on the day the books are opened. Their palaces will be weighed and found light. Your quiet sacrifices will be heavy. This is the real metric of victory. Remember the promise: falsehood is bound to perish. Let your existence be a continual reminder of that promise. When they see you unbroken, they see the foreshadowing of their own defeat. Keep living in sincerity. For every uncompromised heartbeat is a crack in the foundations of those who thought themselves eternal. Their defeat is not only near because of worldly events, it is near because the one who writes history has chosen to keep you alive as the sign of his truth. Chosen ones, let this sink deep into your heart. You were never rejected because you were weak. You were blacklisted because you are untouchable. The elite do not fear your money, your status, or your numbers. They fear your loyalty to Allah, your resilience in trials, and the light that shines from your soul. Their time is temporary, but your covenant with Allah is eternal. So walk with your head high, knowing that every rejection was protection, every isolation was preparation, and every setback was a sign that Allah has written you for something greater. Do not waste your energy longing for their tables. You are being prepared for thrones in Jannah. Remember, your very existence is proof that their empire is crumbling. Stay patient. Stay steadfast, and stay aligned with the one who owns all power. The blacklist is not your prison, it is your crown, and it shines brightest when the world tries to keep you in the shadows. Brothers and sisters, if these words lit a fire in your heart, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Wisdom of the Prophets so more souls can awaken to the truth. Until next time, stand tall, stay chosen, and never forget. When Allah is with you, the world cannot defeat you.